Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. Today we have a 3v3 small funds, and this is not a quick battle, this is just a multiplayer battle. And this is a 3v3. The Empire and Bretonnia is going up against Elves, Clan Angred, and the Greenskins. So definitely an interesting matchup on that side. And so, this map is very interesting. It has a couple of key features. You might have seen it in one of my previous videos where I marched up this hill as the dwarves and took the hill from the Empire. Hopefully that won't happen this time. There's these trees here that provide good cover when you're assaulting the other mountain, and there's this nice swamp here in the middle. Definitely like this map, gives a lot of options to both players. And it's nice to have a little map that helps the dwarves and just our kind of artillery in general. So we're gonna start with our armies here. It's hard to tell where my army begins and theirs begins, but we'll try and work it out. I have 4 spearmen here, going cheap on the infantry along with 2 flagellants to support my very expensive core here, or my very expensive high value death dealing units. And that is the steam tank here. So I'm going to be trying to use this to terrorize enemies. And I'm also going to be using Boris Todbringer here. And so these are kind of the two, in small funds, having 2 really strong units like this can be interesting. And to keep these guys alive here, I have a Jade Wizard hiding in the forest. I like to keep this guy hidden as long as possible, and I have him on a little horse so he can run around and hide. I also have a unit of handgunners and a unit of crossbowmen. My ally here has brought a ton of flagellants, 2 great swords, 2 crossbowmen, and Volkmar the Grim as his general here to buff up these flagellants. Very lore-friendly army here. We got Midland, the Cult of Sigmar, and Leon Leokur. Actually, pretty lore-friendly matchup here. I like this. It's always not very fun when there's I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. There's 2 of the same lord on the field, and definitely not in this case. And providing a lot of the just infantry core is Bretonnia, and they're a great faction to bring when you have a low funds battle, because the infantry is so cheap you can kind of have a full army, unlike kind of the rest of the factions. So he has a main line here of 5 spearmen, 1 men-at-arms with polearms for a little armor-piercing damage, 5 peasant bowmen, and a Grail Knight, along with Leon Leokur. So it's rare to see Bretonnia with only 1 flying unit, but in low funds battles you do see it. Over here we see some Sisters of the Thorn. Don't get to see these guys very often, and I think in a low funds battle their magic can really make a difference. And you can spend a little bit more time microing them, which is something they need. The elf also has a main line of 4 Eternal Guard, 1 Wildwood Ranger, 1 War Dancer, 2 Glade Guard, a non-mounted Glade Lord, Glady, so she has the Prey of Anathrama and the Arrows of Kurnos. There's also a Spellsinger of Life here. I definitely prefer the pick of the Branch Wraith. It provides a little bit more of a melee-focused Lord, but you don't get Spell Bloom, so that is something to be aware of. And he's got 2 of these Glade Guard with Hagbane tips, obviously expecting some cheap Empire and Bretonnian infantry. Next we'll go into the Greenskins. He's got Night Goblin Archers and Durustiers over here. He's got Savage Orc Biggins, and the Crimson Killers. And in the middle of the Crimson Killers is, of course, the biggest Crimson Killer, Grimgor Ironhide. In the back, he also has some Trolls and a Giant. Not sure if the Giant is the best pick here against these 2 factions. There is a lot of ranged troops that can kind of melt those Giants, or the low armor units, very, very quickly. The Dwarf living up to their name, bringing a ton of artillery. He has a bolt thrower, a goblobber, and a cannon with a ethereal master engineer to support. I definitely like this pick. Gives this master engineer a little bit more of a staying power, but at the cost of costing a ton more. He's also got just a default lord over here. He's got some dwarf warriors with great weapons, and just dwarf warriors on that side. He has also got as his core hammers and iron breakers. So very expensive infantry we're going to have to watch out for. So we're going to get started here. And then of course I'm just going to move my steam tank up, trying to get some opening volleys here. I really don't think that this artillery has any chance of killing my steam tank. What is going on with the sound here? Huh. 1 second. Well, that's kind of sad, but I guess we're just going to have to continue on, because my sound is on, but I think these multiplayer battles do get a little strange. You can see here some cannon fire coming in. I would prefer to get these Wildwood Rangers, but they're just a smidge out of range, and you can see the Wood Elf player wisely falling back. And so this is kind of going to get out to a slow start, as we both kind of decide what we want to do here. My steam tank opening fire, now on some Dwarf Warriors, which is going to be a pretty good choice, because of their armored nature. Ah, here we go, music cut back in. And so now I'm going to be taking some pot shots at the dwarves, but you know, even if I miss, I'm going to hit some elves, which I'm okay with. I'd like to get those. Oh, there it goes again. What if I zoom? How did I get that to happen again? Oh well, whatever. Yeah, so we're just going to be exchanging fire. These flagellants pushing up. I brought in Boris to chase off these Sisters of a Thorn. The Goblobber opening fire, bolt thrower, nice hill position here for the dwarves. Plus 22% weapon damage there from the Sisters of the Thorn. Very interesting way to use that. I never really considered putting that on artillery. But like you put it on something like the Hammer of Witches, and that I could see that doing a ton of damage. My allies here are kind of just pushing up the middle, and I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that the greenskins moved over to this side to just move straight up this hill. I'd rather not fight uphill. So if I can get over here uncontested and then attack from the side, that is going to be so much better for me than attacking straight up this hill. And so I'm going to try and do that while my allies kind of just head up the middle. You can see the greenskin player coming back, which is smart, you know, bringing this guy back, contest this as I'm moving up. It's going to limit the effectiveness of my ranged units. Sorry about that. You can see my steam tank has to get up here to be effective. And I'm going to want this guy to start shooting at the Crimson Killers immediately. I try to posture with Boris, but I then discovered the Rustiers, and I'm immediately going to regret that. You can see the elf player coming up here, also turning towards me. So this is very, very bad, and I'm going to be just running away. I need to give my allies here time to get up this hill. And I'm not going to, if I fight right now, I'm going to die far earlier than it's going to take for these flagellants to get up the hill. Good move here, though. The Prey of Anathrama is going to be dropped on my steam tank. And all these abilities and arrows are going to start coming in. Luckily, he does not have the Glade Guard with Starfire shafts. So he's not going to be able to do too much damage with his Glade Guard. But if his Eternal Guard get in there, I can see it doing pretty bad amounts of damage between the armor piercing and the anti-large. So you can see here completely falling back. My poor steam tank is going to get caught. And I really don't want this giant to come in, these biggins. But just in time, my steam tank is going to start sneaking away from this fight. I think I'm going to be dropping an Earth Blood there. Start trying to heal this guy up as my ranged troops kind of get into position here. You can see my crossbowmen just let loose a volley. My steam tank is going to be tossing some greenskins. Let's do slow-mo and watch. And so you can see how me kind of posturing up on this hill has dragged all these troops over on this side, and it's allowed the Bretonnians, at least, to get up here uncontested. And so, whereas they had the artillery advantage and the hill position, I have kind of negated their hill position. But you can see me just completely on the retreat. I do not want to be in this fight just yet. But I'm not going to run farther than this. If I run more, I'm just going to be caught downhill, which was the whole purpose of this. I'm going to bring Boris Todbringer in to disrupt the formation, prevent my flagellants from taking the charge, and then get a charge of my own. And between the steam tank and Boris, these Biggins are going to rout. And that is exactly what I wanted. Get some free damage on those guys. So you can see the Bretonnians now in a very good position. Grail Knights making some charges here against some Dwarf Warriors. Some charges from the Iron Breakers. The trees are going to protect these guys, but you know what? You got a ton of ammo on these guys, so why not? It doesn't hurt, as long as you're targeting the ones who don't have shields. So here you can see, terrified off those Biggins real quick and are chasing them, trying to just half health. They're definitely going to come back, so I'd love to kind of get them off the field more. You can see the elf player turned around, very indecisive here. I probably would have stayed and finished me off before heading back, and so now they're going to kind of be sandwiched between us. This giant is over here, kind of left all alone, which is good for me. I really don't want that steam tank in that fight, so I'm going to be bringing my spears in to tank it while I shoot at it with the steam tank, and Boris comes in for a charge. You can see I'm also moving my handgunners over, and my crossbowmen are also moving into position. So, again, just isolating and eliminating quickly high-value units. And in a multiplayer battle, you can do this even more effectively because there's so much going on. So here you can see Peasant Bowmen not trading very well versus the Wood Elves. But, you know what, they're very cheap, and so they're doing their job. Eternal Guard here, getting the Shield of Thorns, is going to help them in this fight that they'd win anyways, but it might put some damage down on the Paladin. Over here you can see already routed the Giant. That's a very expensive unit, and these Biggins are back already. Man, the Greenskins. What a great unit. I just wish the Savage Orcs with Biggins were more viable. Nice charge there, and I'm going to follow it up with a quick charge from Boris, and these guys again are going to rout off the field. You can see these dwarves kind of caught in the middle, and Leon Leokur coming down on the Glade Lady, but with the Crimson Killer so close, he's actually going to take a decent amount of damage there, and with Grimgar Ironhide, he is definitely outclassed, but he is buying time here for his main body of troops. You can see what is the Empire doing, came all the way around here, leaving the Bretonnian to die. Definitely not what you want to do, but it does look like he is moving up the hill slowly. Here, definitely got to watch where your Peasant Bowmen, where they're clicked, and you definitely want to set them on guard mode. But you can see here, now, Leon Leokur taking a beating. I do cast Earthblood on him, so helping out my ally a little bit, and I'm taking some free pot shots at the Hammerers. I look at that, and I don't think that's going very well, so I don't super want to commit yet. But I do want to use some of my ammo or drag some of these units away from the Wood Elves. And so that's what's going to happen here. Between my handgunners and my crossbowmen, he can't just sit back and take this, especially with non-shielded infantry. Sorry about the frame rates here. There's a lot of troops on the field. Volkmar the Groom coming in to support. And it's good to see the Empire player finally. The Flagellants coming in behind. This is just going to be a giant grind-out fight on this side versus kind of a more strategic fight on this side. The Dwarves coming in here. I'm going to disrupt with my steam tank and just open fire with my crossbowmen. Oh, man. Definitely losing some frames here. I don't know why. I feel like I just cast that, oh, God, just devastating shot there from the Goblobber. I feel like I just cast an Ultra Funds battle, which is definitely a lot more troops than that. You can see, oh, just how fast that Goblobber routes this whole blob. Not looking good. Iron Breakers using their charges on the steam tank. Probably not the best move. But I am going to drop a Overcast Earthblood here on the Steam Tank and start peppering these guys as they're coming in. I'm going to try and sandwich them here between Boris, the Steam Tank, and 2 Spearmen just to try and break their morale. Kind of is my goal. That's very hard to do with Ironbreakers, so I definitely have my work cut out for me. Yeah, wow, I apologize here. 15 frames per second. You can see, though, saving my flagellants for later in the game. I definitely don't want to waste them too early. I'm going to use my less stable troops, my spearmen, blob in here, try and finish off this giant again. You can see this big just blob of flagellants here, slowly chewing through all this infantry. And since this dwarf is focusing all his artillery on me, he's not going to be able to shoot his artillery into this huge blob, which is very good, because, man, that stuff would die quick. Here, these greenskin archers are causing me a ton of problems. They're chewing apart this flagellant that I was trying to save, and because of their no armor. There you can see the Ironbreakers, very spread out unit. You can see kind of Ironbreakers everywhere. That's going to make it very difficult for my heavy big troops to really do anything. You can see just tossing a couple of dwarves, whereas if for some reason they would charge like these, they would hit a ton more, but AI just chose to go after those guys instead. Here I'm going to stick my flagellants in against the Lord, just try and do some damage. And my spearmen over here, not doing much. Finished off the giant. And I'm going to send them down here to go rear charge these Eternal Guard. Help out my ally just a bit. Over here you can see my steam tank, still very healthy. My crossbowmen shooting into these dwarf warriors. And the crossbows do so little damage, you don't want to shoot them really at anything with a shield. I know I was shooting them at the Ironbreakers earlier. Definitely not what you want to do. The only way they're going to really do anything against the dwarves is shooting the non-shielded ones. Over here you can see the Grail Knights taking on the Glady. Flesh to stone on him, definitely a nice use of that spell. But Leon Leokur is eating that Spellslinger for lunch. And you can see my kind of just hero squad going around routing whatever they can route. It's kind of my goal with my terror-causing units. You can see Leon Leokur caught again, and these Grail Knights are going to have this last glorious charge. And you can see this blob is actually doing pretty well. It's chewing through the Crimson Killers and some of the Eternal Guard here. Definitely could have been better ways to use this blob, but the flagellants are unbreakable, so it's not going to be too bad. Nice use of the Peasant Archers shooting into the Trolls. But you can see here, these Dwarf units just keep coming back. They're being so pesky. I'm used to only the Greenskins doing that. And I just don't have the units here to go after these guys, so I just really have to leave them to shoot as they will. Because I've spent so much money on my heroes and my steam tank, I really can't do anything to these guys. Because if I spent 2,000 gold chasing after a 500 gold unit, is my 200 gold unit really going to pay off? Probably not. You can see Boris here coming in against the Lord, terrify him away. And at this point you can see the flagellants broke through, and pretty much game over at this point. And the last player is going to call it quits. And so it's a Pyrrhic victory. Though I think I still had a ton of killing power on the field here. Tons of Winds of Magic left, tons of regen left in my units. Especially Boris and the steam tank. But all of the rest of my units were basically dead. My crossbowmen were out of ammo. Oh, there's the sound comes back. Isn't that great? Definitely wish I could click on my enemies, or my allies, and my enemies. But you can see Boris really doing work. Steam Tank doing amazing, 152 kills. Definitely paying for itself. Definitely drawing a lot of attention, and not dying. It's still at full health because of that Jade Wizard. So definitely, I think, really worked out. It was a risky move. If like Wildwood Rangers got into it, it would die very quick. So you got to be really, really careful. And you can see the Spearmen did what they were supposed to do, so did the Flagellants. Kind of just meat shield. And the crossbowmen and the handgunners definitely help with that greenskin giant. So over here you can see getting a ton of kills on all these units, except for the Sisters of the Thorn. Really got 10 kills is not good enough for a unit like this, though they did buff a ton of units on the field. So maybe they paid for themselves that way, but you can see great kills on almost all these units. Even the Glady just on foot got decent kills. But anyways, great game, and thanks to my opponents, and I hope you tune in next time. That's that.